like again to ask Mindy to come back and give us a bit more of a kind of commercial overview of the US in terms of these commercial and these commercial opportunities. Mindy.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark. I'll keep this short and sweet, but I think really what we've seen over the last probably 5 to 10 years is that what I call a blurring of a line. So kind of, what is a medical device? What is health tech? What is life sciences? And this is particularly relevant, I think, because of the nature of setting up some of these hubs, but also particularly how you look at actually accessing not only money in the States, but also the market and what I call channels of distribution or distribution channels. And really, if we kind of look at some core areas, I think, in healthcare, we've got a burgeoning prevention element, which is really around the wellness and nutrition and kind of lifestyle things. We have a fascinating diagnosis of which COVID has kicked off a lot with regards to testing and how we're using AI. Treatment is typically your infrastructure and obviously places that you go, but telehealth has become absolutely important. And I think obviously care fits in that, but it's usually facilities and people. And what we also have, I think that's really fascinating, is really what I would say is the research area. And obviously, that again has absolutely fundamentally changed with genomics, bio, and again, AI in that. So we've got an absolute blurring of the lines in some, and then we've got kind of these health hubs in the States, which are doing very specific things, which I think are interesting. But one of the things that people come to me, and I think a key question for some of the people out there is really who benefits with regards to your solution. That might seem like a really simple thing to say, but when I say that, it often comes down to, in the US in particular, you have an insurance market that pays for a lot of things, that always wants to drive down claims, and they are a huge potential channel of how you may access and enter a market. And then you have the providers who benefit by actually utilizing it. And these two different channels are incredibly important to understand and also to potentially access, because these channels often are huge in doing that. So I say that because a lot of people overlook the insurance channel coming from Europe and go straight into provision on that, just by the nature of how Europe is somewhat set up differently than in the States. And it is a really big deal. And what we've seen since COVID, also from a funding, I know we're talking very specifically about a lot of the setup of an organization, but if you look at where the money is and how you access that money, that will also determine potentially how you scale. Because coming from Europe into the States, you've already, one, proven that you probably have product market fit, that it works. Two, you've got a representative cohort of people willing to talk about what it is that you've done. And you're now moving to the States to actually expand and grow, particularly if you're VC funded. That's probably a priority, and a huge driver of the VCs is your total addressable market. So with that, I think what I will say is that we've seen an incredible increase of VC activity amongst the hospital side, with some of the larger hospitals getting involved in that. And I think that's really interesting, because obviously there's skin in the game to actually then use those hospital chains to accelerate growth in throughout that. But equally so, we're also seeing that with some of the large insurers within that. So I think when you look at scale, understanding where you get your money and how you may want to do that is incredibly important. And I think a lot of European companies don't really think about the insurance side. And it is one of the largest funders of care and provision and controlling cost within that. And I kind of come from both sides, being sitting within the insurance at a global scale, and the benefits, which is the insurance market from a corporate perspective is absolutely huge, particularly in a lot of the drivers of hospital costs, but also wellness programs. And then equally, working with hospital provisions where they're actually putting these things in place. What I would say in the changing nature, and I'll just kind of give a view of it, which I think is fundamental. These health hubs are going to be huge, and the funding that will come out of them will be huge. And the interesting thing is that they're generally situated around areas of academic excellence. So you're getting the academic excellence, you're getting a nice place to live, and then you're getting kind of the money and the infrastructure around it, like the economic development boards. So where we were looking at traditionally in the top 10 places to be if you're in health or health tech life sciences, predominantly, 50% was East Coast or Northeast Coast, mainly Northeast, with Raleigh-Durham being the exception. Around 30% was West Coast, and we had about 20% what I call the heartland. But with the advent of these emerging tech hubs, what we're really going to see is a fundamental shift to the heartland, which is kind of unusual. I myself was born in Kansas, and what we were seeing is even Kansas and Missouri have made it onto a tech hub. So we are seeing a dramatic shift from an American perspective in kind of this central area actually growing and burgeoning because of it being a nice place to live, also having fantastic universities, also having fantastic economic development zones, and probably a real hunger to drive innovation for kind of startups wanting to move into the States. So with that, I kind of leave it a little bit, but I think the thing that I always will say is really think carefully about, who is the buyer of your solution. It may be a different person in Europe to actually what it may be in controlling costs in the States. Yeah.
Mindy, that's great. And obviously, you've talked a lot about life sciences, but the other tech hubs like net zero, sustainability, and smart manufacturing is very much there too. And again, have been dispersed much more regionally. Thank you for that. That was a really powerful summary of some of the commercial aspects.